Hey guys, you're back with another one of Arbiter's Garrysmod tutorials. This is probably the third time I've done this tutorial today because I've once again been having issues with my sound recording. Over the course of the day, I've actually managed to grab a cold from somewhere. I'm probably going to blame my cat for that. So I'm a bit ill now, but I'm desperate to get this out of the way with because obviously that's the third time I've tried it, so I just want to get it over with. So, on with the show. Someone has requested that I show them how to build a guided missile or some kind of homing missile that will track players and blow them up. I don't remember who the request came from, nor am I going to chase it. I didn't know how to make one at the time, so I watched a tutorial from someone else on YouTube. I did check out their channel to see if they had any other tutorials because I would recommend them, but they had nothing other than this one, so no luck there. I also forgot their names, so they shall remain nameless, but they're the reasons I know how to do this now-ish. So we're going to use this model. It's in PHX Useful in Explosives. It is the AMRAAM missile, or AMRAAM, whatever. The two main components of the missile that we're going to need is something to make it go. So from the back we're going to need something to actually make it fire up into the air, and then we need something to direct it. So we're going to need something on the front to point it at the target. Now these would be very simple things to do, so we're just going to need a simple thruster on the back. I'm going to set the thrust at around 7,000, nothing too big or powerful. I'm just going to put that in the middle there, and then at the front, to direct it, we're going to need something that's going to direct it relative to where the target is. So we can't have a simple thruster, we're going to use a vector thruster. Now a vector thruster takes in coordinates of X, Y and Z to fire it in different directions, so as opposed to a regular thruster like this which you just fire in the direction that it's facing away from, a vector thruster will actually fire in all three axes in order to get it to the right target. So we're going to slap this on the middle. It doesn't actually matter at the moment, just as long as it's near the front, and then once you spawn it you have to direct it. You can see the needle moving there when I rotate my mouse, and I'm just going to sort of face that forwards a bit. Now though, I'm going to unweld it and just snap it to the world there so that I can no collide it and put it inside the missile. The reason for this being that I want it to be as aligned as possible with what we're doing. So it's just in the missile there. It's not going to stop me from being able to interact with it, so I can still access its inputs and outputs there. So we've got two thrusters there. We've got one at the back and one at the front. Now, besides, wait, have I welded that? Yeah, I have. Good. There are two ways you can do this. You can use a wire system as a timer, so that when this one fires after a certain amount of time it'll switch off and this one will take over. Or you could just use simple numpad inputs. Now, because the timing system is a bit complex and well, sort of limited for time, I'm just going to ignore it for now. As you can see, so I'm just going to use numpad inputs here, sorry. As you can see, the regular one is a bit big, but if you look at the top of your screen here, you've got model size if available. And you've got three sizes: normal, mini and nano. And obviously normal being the regular size and nano being the smallest. So we're going to use two sizes. The first one I'm going to use 0 for toggle on, and that's just going to fire this back thruster. So I'm just going to wire this up now. So if I press 0 there, you can see it's firing, and if I let go it's not. And we're going to put another one at the front here, which is going to fire the vector thruster, and I'm going to set that to enter. And that's just going to sit at the front there, and it's going to be wired up to I'll do all the wiring up at the end. Okay, so now we've got a basic missile direction system. All we need to do now is figure out how we can get it to fire at the actual target. So we're going to need something to actually show us where a target is. So it's going to spawn a regular target finder. There it is, a model set of nano. The range is huge again. It's set to target players but not to target the owner. It's set to target NPCs. And I'm just going to slap that in the middle there. As well as this, you also need to work out where the target is relative to the missile. So we're going to need a GPS just to output the actual current location on the world of the missile. And that's what that does. And then obviously, besides the target finder, we need something to output the location of the target. So we're going to put a beacon sensor on. The beacon sensor doesn't matter where, because it's just outputting world coordinate. It's not relative to anything. So I'm just sticking that in the middle. Now, excuse me a second. Okay, so besides this beacon sensor, we're just going to wire this up now to the target finder. Ooh, bit of lag there. Right, so that's wired up now. And what we need to do is get away from a way to translate the GPS coordinates and the GPS coordinates of the target into some kind of direction for the vector thruster to understand. So what a vector thruster does is it takes in X, Y and Z coordinates, but not in the way that you would think with GPS. X, Y and Z coordinates literally refers to direction in the X, Y and Z axis. It doesn't refer to actual coordinates, it refers to a direction. Just to clear that up. If that made any sense to you, then good on you, but if not, it's not necessary, you don't need to know it. So, we're going to need three things. We're going to need three subtract gates. One for X, one for Y, and one for D. I'm just kidding, it's for Z. Ho ho ho, that was a joke. Nobody laughed. Okay, so we're just going to wire this, so we're just going to name them Z. I'm just naming them for the sake of ease, and also so that you sort of understand what's going on. So that's X, Y and Z. Now, what you need to do is wire every A up to the GPS corresponding to its name, and every B up to the beacon sensor corresponding to its name. So X goes to X, Y goes to Y, and Z goes to Z. And on the B, it gets wired up to world X, world Y. That wire up properly? World Y and world Z. Okay, now all we need to do is wire up this. The vector thruster is comprised of, well, 4 inputs and an extra vector input. But the vector is a different type of wire system, and I'll probably do a tutorial on it in a later date, but ignore it for now. So the multiplier is basically the same as the multiplier for the regular thruster over here at the back. The multiplier is set, and then the input is the multiplier. So this is basically just the same as A, it's just named differently. So we're just going to wire this up to the numpad input we've got, and that's just going to fire the thruster when when we want to fire it. Now what we need to do is wire up the X, Y and Z inputs to the gates we've created. So X, Y, and then Z. And all this means is that when the missile is fired from the back, that when we fire the front thruster, it then begins to direct at the target. So I'm going to do two things. I'm going to spawn a target. Excuse me. So I'm going to disable the AI just so they don't stop messing with me. And there's our combine over there. Now, another thing you're going to want to do is to weld these. Oh god, lag. Weld these 3 gates to the missile, because in the second step that I'm about to do, which is when you duplicate it, it means that they don't mess up, because usually when you move it after you've duplicated it, the gates stay where they spawned and don't actually move. But that's just in duplication, so we'll just leave this in the corner for now, and you want to duplicate it so that when this blows up, you have another one able to be spawned. So, this is our missile. What you want to do is obviously when you fire a missile, you want it to go up in the air, and then it'll be directed at its target. Oops, fell off the platform there. So, we're going to fire the missile with the 0 key, and there you can see it's firing. And then when it gets to the suitable height, I'm going to deactivate that and activate the multiplier on the vector thruster. So we're going to let go of this and then direct it, and it does a little flip there and then straight into him. So he's dead now. That's good. I'll say that's good, you know, it's kind of good. So we've now got a backup missile and one in the air. One of the duplicator saved. Now I'm going to show you what the problem here is. The distance it can cover is relative to the height it gains. It kind of follows a projectile motion path through the air, as one would expect. Which means that if you don't give it enough height when you're letting it go, it won't make it to the target, and it'll either explode when it hits the floor, which will be well short, or it'll just fly along the floor and just hit the target and clobber him to death as opposed to explode. which is kind of defeats the point. So I'm going to illustrate now on a faraway target the problem. And there we go, and there's the missile. Fire it towards the guy, and it's exploded nowhere near him. So, obviously one would say, well, let's just give it more airtime. Or leave the thruster at the bottom on while it's directing, so we'll try that. And it kind of hits him directly. Wow. Okay. So, okay, let's try it with a moving target. Okay, so a good point to make here is that although that guy was quite far away and it still managed to hit him, there's still a height factor involved with when you fire it. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to introduce the moving target element. Now, you probably don't know this because it's a bit of a random fact to know, but if you were ever shove an NPC through a Stargate like this, they automatically run to where they were standing, which works quite nicely. So I'm going to undisable the AI and spawn a regular rebel, because they interact with you and they move backwards when you... Okay, so the thing's got a lock on him now, and I'm going to shove him through the Stargate.
Let me get out of here.
There we go. Now, if we look on the binoculars there, you can't really see him that well, but he is running back to where we were. So he's a moving target now. So we're going to fire this. I'm going to wait until it's a suitable height in the air, and then fire. As you can see, the missile's going quite nicely towards him, and it's missed, because he's too far away and he's moving. So, quite a lot of issues with this type of homing missile. Still quite a good tool to have on short range, but I wouldn't use it on anything long range. And maybe in future days I'll work in how to use wire to control it, but otherwise I would say do it yourself. I mean, it's not very hard to use the system, and I'm sure I've included stuff in tutorials already on how to incorporate timers and things. So, you know, get to it. You can do it. And he's dead now. That's good. So, till next time, see you later, and goodbye.